5553. The Sheep and the Crow. A hateful crow perched atop a sheep, forcing the sheep to carry it unwillingly. After a while, the sheep said, "If you had done this to a dog with teeth, you would have been punished." The wicked crow replied, "I look down on the defenseless, but I yield to the strong. I know whom to attack and whom to flatter with cunning lies. That's why I extend my life for 1,000 years. Many harass the weak and yield to the strong." 5554. Socrates and the Wicked Slave. A wicked slave was rudely addressing Socrates. This slave had seduced his master's wife, a fact that Socrates knew was well known to those present. Socrates said to him, "You are pleased with yourself because you are pleasing someone you shouldn't please. But don't think you'll escape punishment, for you're not pleasing the one you truly ought to please. No reproach is more severe than one's own conscience." 5555. The Young Man and the Treacherous Prostitute. A treacherous prostitute was flattering a young man. Though he had often been hurt by her many wrongs, he still made himself easily available to the woman. The scheming woman said, "Even if all others compete with gifts, I still value you the most." The young man, remembering how often he had been deceived, replied, "My darling, I gladly hear these words, not because they are faithful, but because they are pleasing to me. Many things are pleasant to us, yet they are harmful." 5556. The Wasp and the Butterfly. A butterfly saw a wasp flying nearby and said, "What an unfair fate! When we lived in the bodies from which we received our souls, I was eloquent in peace and brave in battle. I was the best among my peers in every art. Now look at me, nothing but lightness and flying ash. You, who were once a pack mule, can now sting and hurt anyone you wish." The wasp then spoke words worth remembering. "Don't look at who we were, but who we are now." Fortune was not to be seen in the past, but in the present. 557. The Fox and the Ground Bird. There was a bird known as the ground bird, because it built its nest on the ground. One day, this bird happened to encounter a sly fox. When the bird saw the fox, it flew higher into the sky. The fox said, "Hello! Why are you flying away from me? There's plenty of food for me here in the meadow, crickets, beetles, and lots of locusts. You have nothing to fear. I really like you because of your peaceful nature and honest life." The songbird replied, "Your words sound nice, but I am no match for you on the ground. Up here, though, I can hold my own. Why don't you follow me? Here I would trust you with my life. One should never trust the wicked." 558. Two Roosters and the Hawk. A rooster, who often fought with another rooster, asked the hawk to be the judge of their dispute. The rooster hoped that when both roosters came to the hawk would devour the one who had been accused. However, when they came before the hawk to present their case, the hawk seized the rooster who had brought the case to him. The rooster cried out, "It's not me. It's the one who's running away." The hawk replied, "Do not think you will escape my talons today. It is only fair that you receive the punishment you intended for another." Those who plot the downfall of others often fail to realize what may happen to them in return. #5559. The Snail and the Mirror. A snail discovered a mirror. Enchanted by its brilliant shine, she fell in love with it. Without hesitation, she climbed onto its smooth, round surface and began to lick it. But her touch did nothing good for the mirror. Instead, she smeared it with filth and slime, tarnishing its radiant glow. Later, a monkey came across the mirror, now defiled by the snail. Shaking his head, he remarked, "This is what happens when you let someone like that walk all over you." For women who tie themselves to foolish and worthless men. 560. The Bald Man and the Gardener. A bald man asked his neighbour, a gardener, to give him some melons. The gardener mocked him and said, "Go away, Baldy. I won't give my melons to a peasant like you. May your bald head be cursed in winter and summer. May flies and horseflies swarm over your forehead, bite you, drink your blood, and then defecate on your head." The bald man grew furious. He drew his sword, grabbed the gardener by the hair, and was about to kill him. The gardener, in desperation, picked up a melon and struck the bald man on the forehead. But the bald man was stronger. He overpowered the gardener and cut off his head. For those who cannot speak kindly of their enemies, who bring enmity upon themselves, or who engage in evil among themselves. The Night Owl. The Night Owl, the Cat and the Mouse. A night owl asked a cat if it would carry him around so they could look for someone to talk to. The cat agreed and took the owl to the house of a mouse. The owl asked the cat to announce him, and the cat did so. When the mouse heard the voice of the cat, he came to the door and asked, "What do you two want from me? What do you have to say?" "We want to talk with you," said the owl and the cat. The mouse quickly realized that the two had some evil plan against him. He replied, "A curse on you, my lord cat, and a curse on the one you're carrying, a curse on your house, your sons, your daughters, and all your relatives. You should not have come here, and I hope misfortune follows you on your way back." This is a lesson for those who do not know how to speak kindly to their enemies, creating hatred and bringing trouble upon themselves. 562. The Fox and the Partridge. A partridge was sitting high on a perch when a fox approached and said, "How beautiful you are! Your legs are as red as fire, and your mouth is like coral. Oh, if only you were sleeping, you would be even more beautiful." The partridge believed the fox and closed her eyes, and the fox quickly grabbed her. With a voice full of sorrow, the partridge spoke to the fox, saying, "I beg you, by all your clever tricks, please say my name before you eat me." As the fox opened its mouth to say, "Partridge," the partridge flew away and escaped. The fox sighed and said, "Alas, why did I even speak?" The partridge too sighed and said, "Alas, why did I close my eyes when I wasn't even sleepy?" This is a story for those who speak when they should remain silent and fall asleep when they should be alert. 563. The Lion and the Shepherd. A lion, wandering in the fields, stepped on a thorn. He approached a shepherd, wagging his tail, and said, "Don't be afraid. I seek your help, not food." The lion lifted his paw and placed it in the shepherd's lap. The shepherd removed the thorn from the lion's paw, and the lion returned to the woods. Later, the shepherd was falsely accused of a crime. At the next public games, he was released from jail and thrown to the beasts. As wild animals rushed at him from all sides, the lion recognized him as the man who had healed him. Once again, the lion raised his paw and placed it in the shepherd's lap. When the king understood what had happened, he ordered that the lion be spared and the kind shepherd be sent home to his family. Because those who act righteously can never be overcome by the punishments of their adversaries. Five 64. The Gnat and the Bull. A gnat challenged a bull to a contest of strength, and all the people gathered to watch the spectacle. The tiny gnat then said, "It's enough that you've come to face me. By your own judgment, you've made me your equal." The gnat lifted itself into the air with its light wings, entertained the crowd, and ignored the bull's threats. If the bull had remembered its powerful neck, it would have scorned this contemptible enemy, and there would have been no glory for such an unworthy creature. Those who compare themselves to unworthy opponents diminish their own reputation. 565. The Horse and the Donkey. A horse, proud of its ornate trappings, encountered a donkey. The donkey, exhausted from work, slowly made way for the passing horse. The horse said, "I can barely restrain myself from crushing you with my hooves." The donkey remained silent, only groaning and calling upon the gods as witnesses. Soon after, the horse, broken from racing, was sent to work on a farm. When the donkey saw him laden with manure, he mocked him with these words, "What happened to your once glorious trappings? Now you've returned to the contemptible misery you once scorned." Those who are fortunate and look down on others should remember their uncertainty, for they don't know what the future holds. 566. The war between the beasts and the birds. The birds and the beasts were at war, and it was impossible to tell which side was winning and which was losing. The bat, fearing to end up on the losing side, kept switching to whichever side seemed to be prevailing. When peace was eventually restored, both the birds and the beasts realized that the bat had been a traitor. Found guilty of such a disgraceful act, the bat fled from the light and hid itself in the dark shadows of the night. Those who try to take both sides in a conflict will be rejected by both, and it is better to have no enemies than to lose the battle. 567. The nightingale, the hawk, and the bird-catcher. A hawk perched in a nightingale's nest, searching for prey. He found small chicks there. The nightingale returned and begged him to spare her young. The hawk said, "I will do as you wish if you sing well for me." Though she summoned her courage, the nightingale trembled with fear. Forced and full of sorrow, she sang. The hawk, who had seized his prey, said, "You did not sing well." He then grabbed one of her chicks and began to devour it. From another direction, a bird-catcher approached. Silently raising his reed, he brought down the hawk with sticky bird-lime. Those who set traps for others should fear being caught themselves. 568. The wolf, the fox, and the shepherd. A wolf had gathered a large amount of prey in his den to enjoy delicacies for months. When the fox learned of this, she visited the wolf's den and said in a trembling voice, "I haven't seen you in days. I've been sad because you haven't been out and about." The wolf replied spitefully, "You didn't come here out of concern for me, but to get something. I know you're here to trick me." Angered by these words, the fox went to the shepherd of sheep and said, "Would you be grateful if I handed over your flock's enemy today, so you wouldn't have to worry any more?" The shepherd replied, "I'll serve you and give you whatever you want." The fox immediately showed him where the wolf was hiding. The shepherd killed the wolf with his spear and let the spiteful fox feast on someone else's stores. Later, when the fox encountered hunters, she was caught by their dogs. As she was being torn apart, she said, "I've just committed a great evil, and now I'm dying for causing another's death." Those who harm others should fear being harmed themselves. Stab 569. The monkeys and the two men. Two men were travelling together. One was a liar, and the other always told the truth. Their journey took them to the land of the monkeys. There, a crowd of monkeys noticed them, and the leader of the monkeys ordered that they be detained. He wanted to know what the men thought of him, so he commanded all the other monkeys to stand in a long line before him, both to his right and to his left, and he had a seat prepared for himself. This leader had once seen an emperor, so he instructed the monkeys to line up like that, just as the emperor's attendants did. The two men were brought forward, and the chief monkey asked, "Who am I?" The liar replied, "You are the emperor." The monkey then asked, "And those whom you see standing before me, who are they?" The liar answered, "They are your noble companions, your chancellors, your officials, and commanders of your armies." Because the monkey and his followers were flattered by these lies, the chief monkey ordered that the liar be showered with gifts. The monkeys were all fooled by his flattery. Meanwhile, the man who always told the truth thought to himself, "If that liar received such rewards for telling lies, then surely I will receive an even greater reward for speaking the truth." So the chief monkey turned to the second man and said, "Now tell me, who am I, and who are these who stand before me?" The man who always spoke the truth without hesitation replied, "You are simply a monkey, and all these others standing before you are monkeys as well." The chief monkey, enraged, immediately ordered the monkeys to attack the truthful man with their teeth and claws. This story shows how wicked people who love to lie and cause trouble punish those who speak the truth. 5570. The stork, the goose, and the hawk. A stork, arriving at her usual pond, found a goose repeatedly diving into the water. She asked why the goose did this. The goose replied, "It's our custom. We find food in the mud and escape the hawk's attack this way." The stork said, "I am stronger than the hawk. Be friends with me, and I will help you mock him." The goose believed her and soon asked for her help. As they went out into the field together, a hawk suddenly appeared and captured the goose with its talons. The goose cried out, "One who allies with such a pitiful protector deserves a worse death." This story shows that those who seek protection from those who cannot provide it are doomed. Slav 571. The horse and the donkey. A donkey asked a horse for a small amount of barley. The horse replied, Gladly, if I could. I would give you plenty, as befits our dignity. When we return to the stable this evening, I will give you a whole sack of grain." The donkey said, "You, who refuse such a small favour now, how can I expect you to give me something greater later? Those who make big promises but refuse small requests are slow in giving, who were quick in promising." 572. The Kid and the Wolf. A goat, having given birth, wanted to protect her offspring. She warned the naive kid not to open the door, knowing that many wild beasts prowled around the stables. After giving the warning, she left. A wolf came, imitating the mother's voice. The kid, hearing the voice, said, "I hear my mother's voice, but you are deceitful and my enemy. Under my mother's voice you seek to drink our blood and eat our flesh. It is praiseworthy to follow your parents' instructions." 573. The Farmer and the Snake. A farmer's table had long nourished a snake, and the snake had grown fond of the human hand. However, the farmer's long favour suddenly turned to anger, and his wrath led him to strike the snake with an axe. The farmer, feeling the sting of his own actions, believed himself impoverished because of the wound he had inflicted. He begged the snake for forgiveness, and the snake replied, "I will not feel safe as long as you wield such an axe, while this skin still remembers the wounds etched upon it. Whoever has harmed me once will likely harm me again, if given the chance. It is unwise to trust again those who have proven unfaithful. But if you truly regret your actions, I forgive all, for the size of a wounded heart purchase forgiveness. The one who caused harm once will likely wish to do so again. The honey given by the unfaithful is, in my eyes, poison." 574. The Eagle and the Kite. An eagle sat perched on a tree, looking unusually sad. A kite noticed her and asked, "Why do you appear so gloomy?" The eagle replied, "I'm searching for a suitable mate, but I can't find one who meets my standards." "Choose me," the kite suggested. "I'm even stronger than you." Intrigued, the eagle inquired, "Can you truly provide for me?" "Of course," the kite boasted. "I'm so powerful that I can carry an ostrich in my talons as if it were a mere feather." Impressed, the eagle immediately accepted the kite as her mate. After their wedding, the kite flew off to find food for his new bride. However, upon his return, all he brought back was a tiny mouse. "Is this the ostrich you spoke of?" the eagle asked, disgusted. The kite sheepishly admitted, "To win your affection, I would have promised anything, even the impossible." This fable is for women who seek wealthy husbands, only to discover later that their spouses are worthless. 575. The Butcher and the Flock. A flock of castrated sheep and rams had gathered together. When the butcher entered, the sheep noticed but chose to ignore him. Even as they saw their companions being taken away for slaughter, they did not react. Foolishly, they said to each other, "He's not touching me or you, so let him take whoever he wants." In the end, only one sheep remained. When the butcher approached to take him too, the sheep is said to have remarked, "We deserve this fate. We should have acted together when we first saw you among us. We should have used our horns to crush you." This fable teaches that those who do not protect themselves and fail to act in unity will ultimately fall victim to evil. 576. The Birds, the Bird Catcher and His Tears. It was spring, and various species of birds were contentedly sitting in their nests, hidden among the branches. They noticed a bird catcher who was preparing his tools, coating a long rod with birdlime. As they observed him, they saw that he had tears in his eyes. The foolish birds, not understanding the situation, began to say to one another, "This man must be incredibly kind. His great sensitivity makes him cry whenever he looks at us." However, one of the wiser birds, who was familiar with the bird catcher's tricks, called out to the others, "No, no, run away, you naive birds. Save yourselves from this trap. Fly as high as you can, using your wings to escape. If you want to understand the truth, look closely at what he is doing. You will see that he is preparing to catch us in his snare. Once we are trapped, he will either kill us, strangle us, or carry us off in that basket." This fable teaches that the advice of one wise person can save many from harm. 577. The Raven and the Birds. A raven pretended to host a feast. He invited many birds to the banquet. When all the birds had entered, he closed the doors, trapping them inside. The raven then violently attacked the birds and killed them. This fable warns that many walk into their own destruction, believing they are heading towards good fortune. 578. The Horse and the Goats. Once, 3 goats saw a horse running away in fear from a lion. They mocked the horse for being afraid. The horse replied, "You foolish creatures, if you knew who was chasing me, you would be just as frightened as I am." This fable teaches that those with great qualities are often insulted by those of lower status. Hasha 539. The Man and the Sword. A traveller, while walking along the road, found a sword lying on the ground. He immediately asked, "Who lost you? Please tell me." The sword replied, "One man lost me, but I have caused the loss of many." This fable shows that a wicked person can harm many others before ultimately meeting their own downfall. 580. Greed and Jealousy. Jupiter sent Apollo to Earth to understand human nature better. 2 men were praying for opposite things. One was greedy, the other jealous. Apollo offered to mediate, saying, "The gods will grant your wishes, but whatever one asks for, the other will receive double." The greedy man, hoping to gain more, let the jealous man choose first. The jealous man, realizing the greedy man's intent, asked to be blinded in one eye. This condemned the greedy man to total blindness. Apollo laughed at this display of human nature and reported back to Jupiter about the wickedness of jealousy. He noted that jealousy, in its delight at others' misfortunes, willingly harms itself. This fable illustrates how greed and jealousy can lead people to make choices that harm both themselves and others. The Boy and the Thief. A boy sat crying by a well, his sobs exaggerated and dramatic. A cunning thief noticed him and asked why he was so upset. The boy lied, claiming that his rope had broken and that a golden jug had fallen into the well. Without hesitation, the thief stripped off his clothes and jumped into the well. The boy then took the thief's cloak and disappeared into the bushes. After searching in vain, the thief emerged from the well, lamenting the loss of his clothes. He is said to have sighed and complained to the gods. "Just great! From now on, let anyone who thinks there might be a jug in these clear waters beware. They'll lose their shirt, as they deserve." This fable serves as a warning against being too quick to believe unlikely stories, especially when personal gain is involved. 582. The Bullock and the Farmer. A young bullock resisted the harness and refused to put its neck under the yoke. The farmer cut its horns with a curved sickle, thinking this would calm the animal. As the beast was quick with horn and hoof, the farmer carefully attached its neck to a large plough, hoping the long beam would prevent it from lashing out. But the bullock struggled angrily against the ropes, uselessly stomping the ground. It kicked up sand, which the wind blew into the farmer's face as he followed behind. The farmer shook the dirt from his hair, now stiff with grime. Defeated, the farmer groaned and said, "I suppose I needed to learn about this kind of mischief, where one uses intelligence simply to cause harm." This fable illustrates how attempts to control or subdue others can sometimes backfire, leading to unexpected and unpleasant consequences. 583. The Farmer and the Pig. A pig was destroying a farmer's crops and trampling his fields. To teach the pig a lesson, the farmer cut off one of its ears, hoping it would remember the punishment and respect the crops in the future. However, the pig was caught again, damaging the fields, so the farmer cut off its other ear. Despite this, the pig returned to ruin the crops once more. The farmer then caught the pig and prepared it for his master's table. He served various parts of the pig at dinner. When the master asked about the pig's brain, the farmer, knowing the cook had stolen it, replied that the foolish pig never had a brain. "Why else," he said, "would it keep risking its life and getting caught by the same person over and over again?" This fable warns against those who repeatedly take risks and cannot resist mischief. Halashav 584. The Saltwater Fish and the Freshwater Fish. A freshwater fish, swept from its pond by a rushing stream, found itself in the sea. It arrogantly scorned the sea fish and boasted of its noble origins. A saltwater fish, unable to tolerate this newcomer in its ancestral waters, spoke these sharp words: "Cease your empty lies and boastful talk. Your very presence here disproves them. If we're both caught in the same net, I'll show you who's more valued by the crowd. You'll see that I'm bought by a connoisseur for a high price, while you're sold to a commoner for mere pennies. This fable illustrates how false pride and boasting can be quickly exposed when put to the test, and how true value is often revealed in challenging circumstances. 585. The Sick Lion, the Fox, and the Bear. Once a rumour spread that the lion, the king of the beasts, was gravely ill, nearing the end of his life. The news spread quickly, and all the animals rushed to his side, weeping and calling for doctors to help, fearing they might lose their king's great leadership. The buffaloes, the mighty aurochs, the fierce bulls, and the oxen all arrived. The spotted leopard and the broad-antlered stag were there, as well as horses, antlered deer, roe deer, and goats. The boar with gleaming tusks, the strong bear with untrimmed claws, the hare and the wolf all came. Lynxes appeared, sheep gathered, and even dogs and puppies joined in the procession. Yet the fox alone was missing, choosing not to visit the king. The bear spoke first, his voice filled with anger, repeating his accusations. "O great king, powerful and unconquerable prince of all beasts, hear my words and let your subjects listen as well. What madness has taken hold of the fox? What anger has driven such a small creature to refuse to visit the king whom all of us have seen? The fox's insolence is great, and she deserves severe punishment." Upon hearing this, the lion ordered, "Let her be torn to pieces and die." At this, the animals raised their voices in agreement, saying, "This judgment of the king is just." The fox, however, learned of this and decided to use her cunning. She gathered many torn rags, draped them over her shoulders, and made her way to the royal camp. When the lion saw her approach, he laughed calmly, curious to see what the fox would do. "What brings me here?" Standing before the king, the fox spoke, "My lord, I come to be punished as you have decreed." The fox, trembling and trying to hide her fear, quickly responded with words she had prepared. "Merciful king, our most invincible ruler, hear me. As I travelled through many lands in search of a doctor who could help cure your great illness, I eventually found an excellent healer, but I am afraid to tell you what he said." The lion, eager to know, responded, "If you speak truth, tell me what the doctor advised." The sly fox, not forgetting the bear's earlier harsh words, replied, "Listen carefully, O great king. If you wear the hide of a bear, your illness will vanish, and your health will return." Without hesitation, the lion ordered that the bear's skin be removed and draped over him. Once the lion was covered with the bear's skin, his pain disappeared. But when the fox saw the bear lying there naked, she exclaimed with joy, "Who gave you, Father Bear, this crown to wear, and who gave these sleeves to your hands?" Now the meaning of this fable is for you to discover. 586. The Calf and the Stork. A sorrowful calf was wandering through the meadows, searching for its mother. A long-legged bird came across its path and said, "Hello, brother. Why are you mooing so sadly, and why are you walking through these flowery fields in distress?" The calf replied, "Sister, it's the 3rd day now since I've had any milk, and I am starving." The bird answered, "Don't worry about such things, fool. It's been 3 years since I drank milk." The calf, upset, is said to have responded, "The food you've eaten is clear from the shape of your legs." 587. The Flea and the Gout. In ancient times it is said that a flea tormented the rich, while gout afflicted the poor. The flea would bite the wealthy man's limbs at night, but as soon as a light was brought, it would be caught. On the other hand, gout would hide in the feet of a beggar, leaving the poor man unable to stand, exhausted from the pain. Both were driven by their own bitter fates, one from the fear of death, the other from the labour of travel. Eventually they met and shared their troubles. They decided to switch places. Gout began to torment the rich man's steps, while the flea started to settle in the poor man's bed. Now, Gout rests comfortably, finding relief, while the flea continues to accompany weary bodies safely. Nashna 588. The Hawk, the Doves, and the Grand Duke. A hawk once caught and devoured a dove. The other doves sought advice on whom to complain to. They said, to the Grand Duke. The Grand Duke is a bird with a large head, larger than an eagle. So the doves complained to him about the hawk, asking for justice since it had killed their companion. After hearing the complaint, the Grand Duke responded with a loud gulp. "Clock!" Hearing this, the dove said, "How well he thundered! Surely he will make one mouthful of the hawk." Again, the hawk came and snatched another dove. The doves approached the Grand Duke, demanding justice. He responded, "Clock!" The dove said, "See how vigorously he threatens. He will deliver justice perfectly." The hawk took a third dove. The doves came a third time to the Grand Duke to seek vengeance. He again responded, "Clock!" Hearing this, they said, "Why does he always say clock and never deliver justice? Let's leave his kingdom and harass him as a false and foolish ruler." This is why doves and other birds, when they see the Grand Duke, harass him. Similarly, when the poor cry out for kings and leaders to deliver justice against wrongdoers, they say, we will, and thus make one clock, yet they never act. This also refers to false promisers who say, "Clock, clock, I'll give, and nothing is had from such people except one clock. The beetle variant version. Similarly, a beetle makes a noise with its wings as if to say, I'll do well, and then it flies into your eye. So some say, I'll do well. They promise ointment and give a sting. They promise roses and give nettles. 589. The bird of Saint Martin. In Spain there is a tiny bird called Saint Martin's bird, as small as a wren. It has thin reed-like legs and long ones. One day, around the feast of Saint Martin, the bird lay next to a tree in the sun and raised its legs, saying, "Hey, if the sky were to fall now, I could hold it up with my legs." Then a single leaf fell nearby, and the startled bird flew away, crying, "Oh, Saint Martin, why don't you help your little bird?" Many are like this, believing for a time but retreating when faced with temptation. Such was Peter, who was ready to go to prison and death for Christ. But when he saw his Lord mistreated, he denied him when a servant girl spoke, saying, "Woman, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know him." The sons of Ephraim, armed and carrying bows, turned back on the day of battle. This applies to certain soldiers. When their heads are well soaked with wine or beer, they say they can stand against 3 Frenchmen and defeat the strongest. But when they are sober and see lances and swords around them, they say, "O Saint Martin, help your little bird. O Saint Martin, aid our little bird." Raven, the stork, and his beak. Once a stork quarrelled with his wife and, in the heat of the argument, accidentally poked out her eye with his beak. Filled with shame for causing such harm, the stork flew away to live elsewhere. Along the way, a raven crossed his path and asked the reason for his journey. The stork explained that he had poked out his wife's eye with his beak. The raven then asked, "Is this the same beak you've always had?" The stork confirmed that it was. The raven then said, "So what's the point of running away if you're carrying your beak with you wherever you go?" Some people commit many sins and flee to another region or seek refuge in a monastery. However, they always carry their beak with them, their malice and inclination to sin, along with the devil enclosed within. They change their environment, but not their soul. Those who were wicked in the world often become even more corrupt when they try to escape to a cloister. As it says in Matthew 23:15, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you travel across sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves." The magpie and her tail. The magpie often settled on a perch and folded her wings, but her tail feathers kept twitching. Hoping to break this habit by changing her home, she flew across a vast stretch of sea. However, her efforts were in vain. As soon as the magpie landed on the distant shore, her tail feathers began shaking as usual. The magpie then realized, "I thought changing my country would change my habits, but I'm in the same situation as before, even though I've traveled to the other side of the world." Changing your location doesn't alter your state of mind. Those who wish to modify their character travel the seas uselessly. 591. The toad's son and the shoes. The animals held a council. The toad sent his son there. However, the son forgot his new shoes, so the toad sought a swift animal who could hurry to the council. He thought the hare would run well. He called the hare and, agreeing on payment, asked him to deliver the new shoes to his son. The hare replied, "How can I recognize your son in such a gathering?" The toad said, "The most beautiful among all the animals is my son." The wolf asked, "Is your son a dove or a peacock?" No, answered the toad. The dove has dark meat, and the peacock has ugly feet. The hare inquired, So what does your son look like? The toad described, He has a head like mine, the same belly, legs and feet. That handsome one is my son. Give him the shoes. The hare went to the council with the shoes and told the lion and the other beasts how the toad praised his son above all others. The lion remarked, To one who loves a toad, it seems like the moon. If one loves a frog, he thinks the frog is Diana. The Youth and the Old Woman, variant version. I saw a young man in love with an ugly old woman. He sought advice on how to separate from her love. Someone asked him, Why do you love her when she isn't very beautiful? He replied that to him she was extremely beautiful. Similarly, it happens that a woman has a handsome husband, yet she loves an ugly scoundrel more than her husband. The Cat Who Became a Monk. In a certain refectory there was a cat who caught and killed all the mice except for one large rat. The cat pondered how to deceive and devour this big rat. Finally he had his head shaved, put on a cowl, and made himself a monk. He sat among the other monks and ate with them. Seeing this, the rat rejoiced, believing the cat would not harm him. The rat jumped here and there, while the cat pretended to avert his eyes from vanity. At last the rat approached the cat confidently. The cat vigorously seized the rat with his claws and held him firmly. The rat said, Why are you being so cruel? Why don't you let me go? Aren't you a monk now? The cat replied, You will never preach well enough for me to release you, brother. When I want, I'm a monk. When I want, I'm a canon. And he devoured the rat. Similarly, when many cannot obtain riches and other things they desire, they fast and pretend to be good and holy. They are hypocrites and demons, disguising themselves as angels of light. Others become monks to be cellarers, priors, abbots, or bishops. They have their heads shaved to catch a rat. Moreover, when they illicitly obtain what they desire, you will never preach enough for them to give up their rat. The Spider, variant version. Likewise, a spider draws out its thread, weaves its web, and completely disembowels itself to catch a single fly. Then comes the wind, scattering and carrying away the entire web with the spider and the fly. So do clerics, courtiers, and scholars labor in cold and heat, through winds and rains, over mountains and valleys. They completely disembowel themselves to catch a single benefice, a single church, that is, a single fly. The diligent explorer circles, follows, serves, crawls on hands and feet, if by some means he might insert himself into the patrimony of the crucified. The fly, variant version. The fly is manifold, either stinging or staining or swarming. When someone has a church and greedily and avariciously clings to it, anxious about how to preserve and multiply temporal goods, then he has a stinging fly. When he lives luxuriously and gluttonously from the benefice, he has a staining fly. When he has a large retinue, many horses, and great pomp from the benefice, then he has a swarming fly. Finally comes the puffing wind and carries it all away. The gust that comes is death or fire, adversity, which destroys one's entire status and fortune. Deceitful fortune, which a single syllable destroys. This syllable, death, destroys all of man's happiness. 593. The Fox, the Wolf, and the Well Bucket. A fox accidentally fell into a well through a bucket. A wolf came by and asked what she was doing there. The fox responded, Good friend, I have many large fish here. If only you could share them with me. The wolf asked, How can I get down there? The little fox said, There's a bucket above. Get in, and you'll come down. There were 2 buckets. When one went up, the other came down. The wolf climbed into the bucket that was above and descended, while the little fox went up in the other bucket. When they met midway, the wolf asked, Good friend, where are you going? The fox replied, I've eaten enough and am going up. You go down and you'll find wonders. The poor wolf descended, but found nothing but water. The next morning, peasants arrived, pulled the wolf out, and beat him nearly to death. The little fox represents the devil, who says to man, Come down to me in the well of sin, and you'll find pleasures and many good things. The fool agrees and descends into the well of guilt, where he finds no nourishment. Eventually enemies come, drag the wicked one out, strike him, and kill him. The devil promised Adam many good things, but delivered only evil. 594. The cheese, the rat, and the cat. A man had cheese in his chest, and a rat came. It began to gnaw at it. The head of the household pondered what to do. Finally, after consideration, he placed a cat inside, and the cat devoured both the rat and the cheese. Similarly, many bishops place a parish under the care of a chaplain who devours the parish. Then they appoint an archdeacon who devours both the parish and the chaplain, that is, the cheese and the rat. The dogs and the crows, variant version. Likewise, when dogs devour a carcass, crows wait on trees until the sated dogs leave. Then the crows come and devour what remains around the bones. Certainly, it sometimes happens that cardinals, legates, bishops, and archdeacons devour chaplains and poor clerics. Afterwards, servants and messengers come and devour whatever remains around the bones of the priests. The mouse, the frog, and the kite. Once a mouse wanted to cross water and asked a frog to carry it across. The frog said, "Tie yourself to my leg, thus I'll take you over." The mouse did so. A kite came and carried away both. This is when a parish is given to someone foolish and incompetent. The devil comes and carries away both the chaplain and the parish. 595. The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Monk. The wolf once wished to become a monk. After much pleading, he obtained the chapter's consent. He received the tonsure, cowl, and other monastic garments. Finally, they set him to learn letters. He was supposed to learn the Lord's Prayer, but he always replied, "lamb" or "ram." They taught him to look at the crucifix during the sacrifice, but he always turned his eyes towards the rams. Many become monks in this way. They always say "ram," always call for good wine, and always have their eyes on the fat morsel in their bowl. Hence it is said, though you make the wolf a priest and set him to learn psalms, his ears will always turn to the grove. Similarly, if you try to instruct an old fool, he will never abandon his old ways. An old twisted branch can be broken but not bent. An old nag never learns to amble. Some are of such asinine nature that they never want to give up their old habits. Thus, comb a donkey, wash a donkey, shave a donkey, you will never turn a donkey into a good horse. Jeremiah says, "Can the leopard change its spots or the Ethiopian his skin? Neither can you do good who are accustomed to doing evil. For a horse retains in its nature what it learned in training. It is difficult to abandon habitual ways. Those steeped in filth cannot leave their dirt behind." Note, in the original text, the name Isengrin is used instead of the common noun wolf. Isengrin is a character from medieval European beast epics, typically portrayed as a greedy and dull-witted wolf. He often appears as a corrupt churchman, symbolizing the degenerate clergy of the period. The name Isengrin is derived from Old Dutch Ysengrin, meaning fierce as iron. 596. The sheep complained to the lion about the wolf. Against wealthy plunderers and extortioners, the sheep came before the lion, lamenting the wolf, who had devoured their kin both in secret and in the open. The lion called a council and asked the pigs and other animals how the wolf conducted himself among them. The pigs answered, "Lord, the wolf is courteous, generous, and kind." They said this because the wolf often invited them to feast on lambs and rams he had stolen. The lion said, "That is not what the sheep say. Let us hear them." One sheep stepped forward and spoke, "Lord King, the wolf took both my parents, devoured my son, and I barely escaped." The other sheep cried out in agreement. The lion declared, "Let judgment be rendered, the wolf shall be hanged, and likewise the pigs who knowingly ate from such plunder." And so it was done. The wolves are the wealthy of this world, who seize and flay Christ's sheep, the poor, and give to pigs, that is, to other rich men, to clothe and feed them in pursuit of human favour. The Lord will come to judge. The sheep will cry out against these wolves. The pigs may praise such a wolf, but it will be in vain, for the Lord will cast both wolves and pigs into the depths of hell. A man entrusts 12 sheep to his wolf companion. It happened that a certain master had 12 sheep. He wished to set out on a pilgrimage and entrusted his flock to Isengrim, the wolf, his sworn companion. Isengrim solemnly vowed to guard them well. The master departed at once. Meanwhile, Isengrim turned his thoughts to the sheep. One day he ate one. The next day he ate another. By the time the master returned, scarcely 3 remained. The master asked his companion what had become of the rest. Isengrim replied, "A natural death befell them." The master said, "Then give me their skins," and upon inspection, the marks of the wolf's teeth were found. The master declared, "You are guilty of death." and had the wolf hanged. Thus Christ entrusted his sheep to priests for safekeeping, but many destroy Christ's flock through corruption or negligence. A wicked prelate is worthy of as many deaths as the number of depraved examples he sets for his followers. When the true master returns, he will see to it that such men, these wolves, are cast into the torments of hell. The fox who confessed his sins to the rooster. A fox once entered a hen house. Men arrived with sticks and beat the fox so severely that it barely escaped through a hole. The fox retreated as best as it could, threw itself onto a haystack and began groaning. It then asked for a chaplain to come and hear its sins. So Chanticleer, the rooster who serves as the chaplain to the animals, came. Fearing Renard's ways, the rooster sat at a distance. Renard confessed his sins and, among other things, pointed his snout towards the chaplain. The chaplain asked, "Why are you coming closer to me?" Renard replied, "A great illness compels me to do this. Please forgive me." Then once again Renard confessed more sins. With his mouth open, he put his head toward the rooster, seized him, and devoured him. Many monks, subordinates, and lay people are like this. They pretend to be sick and weak, but always have the intention of devouring their chaplains and superiors. 598. The dispute between the wasp and the spider. The wasp said to the spider, "You are worthless. You always live in a hole. I can fly farther in one day than you can in 10. The spider replied, "I will make a wager." "What will you wager?" "A gallon of wine." The wasp responded, "Let's drink first, and whoever runs out of wine will pay." The wasp said, "Let's drink in this tree." But the spider said, "Not at all. I have prepared a white and beautiful curtain for your use. Let us both sit here and drink." This is why spiders' webs are called Lombard curtains. The wasp descended onto the curtain, that is, the spider's web. Immediately its feet and head were entangled, and it began to shake itself with its wings, but could not escape. It cried, "Cursed be such a curtain, for I cannot get out." "Indeed," said the spider, "you will never escape alive." And it approached and devoured the wasp. This curtain is a beautiful woman, the pleasantness of the world, the curiosity of riches. These are called the devil's curtains. Those who enter them are devoured by the devil. Job, he has sent his feet into the net, and he walks in its mesh. The beetle, variant version, against those who savour earthly things more than spiritual ones, and so forth. A beetle once flew through almond trees in bloom, through orchards, through roses, lilies, and other flowers. Finally, it threw itself into a dunghill where there was horse and ox dung, and found its wife there, who asked where it had come from. The beetle said, I have circled thee cross it, seen almond blossoms, roses and lilies, but I have never seen such a pleasant and delightful place as this, pointing to the dunghill. Thus many clerics, monks and laypeople hear the lives of saints, pass through the lilies of the valleys, the roses of martyrs, the violets of confessors, but nothing ever seems as pleasing and pleasant to them as a harlot, a tavern, or the practice of lawsuits, all of which is a foul dunghill and a gathering of sins. Therefore it is said in Ecclesiasticus, "Every woman who is a fornicator shall be trodden upon as dung in the way." Cursed and unnatural is such a beetle, such an impious one, to whom the dung of sin tastes better than Christ, the devil's places and swallows droppings that blind, rather than the life and examples of saints. As Augustine says, these have a corrupt palate of the heart from the fever of iniquity.